Sociolinguistic rules of speaking. Traditional linguistic research has focused most of its attention on exploring linguistic competently the rules that govern the grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation of language. This may have reinforced a widespread but erroneous belief about second language learning, namely that acquiring linguistic competence will be enough for you to become an effective communicator in the second language. Of course, you need this knowledge in order to produce correct speech in that second language. Sociolinguistics argue, however, that linguistic competence by no means guarantees successful communication. Its critical shortcoming is that it doesn't ensure that you can understand and produce social appropriate speech in the second language. To see what sociolinguistics mean, consider the following conversation and its outcome. This conversation between a U.S. host and a foreign student in hypothetical but the same type of situation has been documented and discussed in the research literature. U.S. host, would you like some more dessert? Do you have some? Student, no, thank you very much. The host changed the topic of conversation and doesn't mention dessert again. The student really did want more dessert but was trying to appear polite by refusing. He remains hungry and might even feel offended because the host has not repeated the offer. Clearly, the speech of each participant is linguistically correct. What is equally clear, however, is that a breakdown of communication has occurred in the situation. The student has communicated to the host a false impression of his wish. He does, in fact, want more dessert. The host, for her part, has interpreted the refusal as a genuine. On the other hand, the host attempting to be attentive and polite might somehow be giving the opposite impression to the student. Later, participants in the conversation really talk that there has been a misunderstanding. For sociolinguistic, such misunderstanding over offense for the one existence of sociolinguistic rules of speaking. Just as the grammar, vocabulary, and phonological rules of our linguistic competence help us produce linguistically correct speech. The sociolinguistic rules enable us to understand and produce socially and culturally appropriate speech. They are acquired and applied usually unconsciously by members of a given culture. In our example, the host is following a sociolinguistic rule in his culture which states that over or more food are made once, or at most twice. The student, on the other hand, applies a rule from his own culture, which states that you should never accept the first offer, or even the second offer, of more food. In his culture, it is polite to wait until the third or fourth offer, which he knows will come. There's extensive empirical data to support both the claim that sociolinguistic rules of speaking exist and that they might differ from culture to culture. Yes. According to a Loh, mana ya? Christopher 1982 reports the relative unwillingness in Japanese culture, compared with American culture, to directly refuse a request from someone. According to a page 1974, South Asians, unlike Americans and Europeans, do not think shopkeepers close friends or family members. Other research have suggested that cultures differ in how and how often they apologize. Cohen and Olstein, 1981. Cohen and Olstein, 1983. Olstein, 1983. From the evidence present in the preceding paragraph, it's clear that different cultures have different standards for what is socially appropriate linguistic behavior in similar circumstance. While thinking, apologizing, accepting, and refusing are probably universal activities. The rules for when and how to perform such action may differ greatly from culture to culture. Does it follow, however, that second language learners need to master the rules of the culture whose language they are learning? To address this question, let us return to the example of the foreign student and the U.S. host. Both follow the rules of politeness of their own society. Both are unaware that there are other ways to show politeness. What is especially significant is that the student is already beginning to judge the most negatively. Reactions like this are relatively common in situations in which intercultural miscommunication occurs. The typical response is to jump to a conclusion and to attribute a negative quality, in this case, lack of politeness, to the person whose language was understood linguistically but misinterpreted socially linguistically. Learners of a second language therefore need to be aware that the seven rules for polite interaction are not universal. Students should be able to identify situations in which the rules of the cultural difference. They must also be ready to modify their speech to conform to the sociolinguistic confrontation of the society they are in. Accomplishing these two tasks is not simple, but failure to do so will lead to misunderstanding that may have negative consequences for those who are involved.